Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here with a spreadsheet video. Love to make spreadsheet videos. We've got some nice colors going on. I'll talk you through the spreadsheet, but today's video is how to know when to crack and try to regrade a Pokemon card. And I mean, it could be any card really. This is a Pokemon channel, so primarily we're going to be talking about Pokemon cards. It's a question that I get quite a bit though. We've had it on the podcast, I think, the PokeFlips podcast. Gotten it in Discord. I've gotten it YouTube comments. I've gotten it Instagram, everywhere. It's a good question too. Grading is a very subjective thing. They're not always going to get it right. And in instances where you disagree with a grade, as you can see, prices can vary a lot by grade. I guess I'll start to talk about the spreadsheet and I'll lay out more why I'm doing this. But the card that I chose, let me just type it in for you. This is a base unlimited Charizard. I just pulled quickly from eBay, just a really common card, one of the most ubiquitous cards in the hobby. So I figured I'd go with it. The most recent CGC 8.5 to sell, sold for $500. Most recent PSA 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sold for the prices shown. PSA 6, 228.50, PSA 10, 11,100. So getting back to, if you have a card like a CGC 8.5 that you think is graded harshly, if it's one of those early certs, maybe even it's a PSA 8 that you think was just graded harshly, the thought always comes in, maybe I got the grader on a bad day, whatever the case may be. With a $60 grading fee, right now, $50 tiers open to the lottery winners only, and then $48 for middleman submissions. But yeah, when you see a $60 grading cost, I bumped it up a little bit. I rounded up just to cover shipping and things like that. There's a lot of room there. $600 gain between PSA 8 and 9. $10,000 gain almost between PSA 9 and 10. And it only costs $60 to potentially realize that. So one disclaimer up front, like if 50 or $60 is worth it to you, like say you have a raw card. I'm using here a graded card example. The same thing applies to raw cards. If you have a raw card that is worth X amount raw, and if you just want it slabbed for your collection, or if you bought a CGC 8 because you 8.5 Charizard because you thought it looked really clean and you love it and you want it in your collection, if it's worth $60 for you to have that piece of plastic and have that protection on maybe it's a nostalgic card from your childhood, maybe it's for whatever reason, at the end of the day, if you're buying it as a collector, one thing I would caution, I would say, like, maybe wait until it gets cheaper. This is historically high for the cost of grading a card, so maybe wait. And if you're never going to sell it, maybe wait. The longer you wait for it to get cheaper. But if for whatever reason you just want to have it now and it's worth $60 to you, do it. By all means, do it. If you're doing it as a play, a speculative play, a flip play, anything like that, this is where the spreadsheet comes into play here. Because at the end of the day, people ask me, hey, should I regrade this? Should I regrade that? What do the numbers tell you? So here I've got this theoretical CGC 8.5 base unlimited Charizard. I have graded 10,000 plus cards at PSA. I've graded 5,000 plus at CGC. I have a pretty good handle on what a PSA 8 looks like, what a PSA 7 looks like, what a PSA 9 looks like. I never pre-grade a card. I've mentioned this many times. I'm going to have more videos down the line talking about it. I never pre-grade a card to a single grade. Every card that I own, every card that I look at trying to pre-grade it, I don't see a single grade. Oh, this is going to be a 9. This is going to be a 10. I see a distribution. No one can pre-grade PSA 100% consistent. PSA can't regrade themselves 100% consistent. So what I see is, okay, I know what these cards look like. I've got the CGC 8.5 Charizard. I'm going to give it a 50% chance that it actually downgrades, a 50% chance, being conservative maybe, 50% chance that it goes backwards to a PSA 8, 20% chance it goes to a 7, 5% chance it goes to a 6, 20% chance it goes to a 9. So having graded so many times, I think the bell curve, the center of the bell curve is going to land on the 8, and it could tail out either way because I don't think PSA is as consistent as most people think. If you like different numbers, if you think it's a really strong chance and you want to give the 50% chance at a 9, it's just going to change the math here. So what you see over here in the red and green, the individual outcome. So down at the bottom, we have the expected value, which is just a sum product of the cost in each grade multiplied by the odds of getting that grade. So if you were to do this like 1,000 times, theoretically, if you had 1,000 CGC 8.5 cards and you were going to like hit every part of this distribution in these proportions, your expected value for doing this would be 1,062. The expected net, the expected profit in this case, it's green, it turned green, so it's profit, is just your cost, the value of the card minus the grading costs. And in this instance, with this odds distribution, you have a $500 expected profit. But very important, but 75% of the time with these numbers, assuming these to be true, the information that gets spit out here, the numbers, the expected values that get spit out are only going to be as accurate as your odds. You need to be able to take off the rose-colored glasses. You need to be able to be objective in grading the condition of your card and estimating what are the odds it's going to get each given grade at PSA. So even though the expected value is plus $500, that's really dragged up by the 1 out of 4 instances where it upgrades. But we've attributed 3 out of 4 times this card is actually going to downgrade. And if it downgrades to a 6, say you damage it while you're opening it, I mean, that's in play too. Part of, like, I think anytime you crack a card, maybe it's not 5%, but some amount of times you might crease a corner, you might scratch it really deeply. Even if you're cracking out a PSA 9, going for a PSA 10, you should have some amount of risk attributed to the downgrade to a 6. And in that instance, you're going to lose $330. As a PSA 7, you're going to lose 195. PSA 8, fairly close, $20, you're down. And these are all factoring in the grading cost too. But the big winner, $600 plus profit if you go to a PSA 9, $10,000 profit if you go to a PSA 10. If you don't like these numbers, like say it's a really strong CGC 8.5, say it's an early cert, I'm going to leave a 2.5% chance you get the PSA 6 because you damage it. You'll note that if you change the values here and they don't add to 100, this will just turn orange to let you know that something's wrong. Say I'm going to give it only a 7.5% chance it goes down to a PSA 7 because it's just a really clean example. And I'm quite confident it's going to upgrade. I'm going to give it a 20% chance it's going to be an 8. And then we're going to give it a 65% chance it's going to be a 9. Now your expected net value, because it's a really clean example, 2/3 of time, you're pretty confident that it's going to upgrade to a 9. Now the numbers are really in your favor. Not only do you have an $871 expected net value on a large sample of cards, 1,000 cards, 100 cards, however many you could do. Not only that, but you have a 70% chance of being in the green and profiting on that individual card, and you only have a 30% chance of loss. One thing I will say, this is something that I employed years ago, sometimes from PSA to PSA, sometimes from BGS to PSA, even PSA to BGS. This spreadsheet, though, is something that I literally created 10 minutes ago. It's not something that I've actually done and sat down this specifically. Usually it's just vaguely running numbers in my head and doing the math quickly and seeing that there's opportunity there. And I've never done it. Base first Charizard, I crossed from a PSA 9 to a BGS 9.5. I did send that with a Blastoise, which failed to cross. That was the smallest sample I've ever sent for like a regrade attempt. But the more, like, if you get to where you have a plus EV scenario, the more the better. So like, even in that earlier example where 2/3 of the time you were going to lose, or whatever the numbers were, what were the numbers? So here it was 3/4 of the time you were going to lose. The expected value was positive. So if I had 100 cards to do this with, 75 of them would lose, but the 25 that win would win enough to make me profit overall. This would be a profit like per card on a large sample. So the bigger the sample you have, and I mean, obviously the more accurate you are in pre-grading, the better. I just thought this would be a fun little video. anytime anyone asks me, should I regrade this? I say, I don't care what the grade is on the slab. What are the values of what you think it's going to get? How much is it going to cost you to grade it? And what are the odds of getting each of those individual grades? You've got to be realistic. If you want to lie to yourself and you want to say, oh, this card's got a 50-50 shot at a 9 and a 10, that would be a super clean card. There's no base unlimited Charizard I've ever seen that I've given a 50% chance at pre-grading a 10. If you want to lie to yourself and you want to, oh, I can't lose money and I'm going to on average make $5,500, go for it. But you really got to be realistic and you got to be reasonable. Yeah. So as I mentioned in a previous video, numbers don't lie, but you can definitely lie to yourself with numbers. If you're unrealistic, these are the main numbers right here. I should have highlighted these a different color because these are kind of the input cells. These input cells, if you lie to yourself here, this one can tell you any story you want, and you're just going to have a bad time and pay PSA a lot of money. So at the end of the day, be realistic. If the numbers make sense, then go for it. Disclaimer, I guess, too. Prices can change. Prices can and will change. I did also put here one thing that you should always be considering making any kind of investment, any kind of a speculative play. What can your money do otherwise? Right now, I bonds are paying 9.62%. I bonds are kind of off topic for this video, but you got to lock up the money for a year. The rates change every 6 months. This is like abnormally high historically speaking, but right now you can lock up money up to $10,000 per year per social security number at 9.62%. And so in 12 months, that $500 would gain $12 in interest anyway. So like if you've got a credit card with 30% interest, I did the wrong number. If you got a credit card with 30% interest, you could make almost $40 just paying down that $500 on your credit card. I would argue if you're paying 30% interest or more, I mean, even in my opinion, 5% interest or more, you should pay down debt before you do any kind of speculative plays like this. But yeah, even as I was saying, these prices are subject to change. These prices were recent auction prices. If the market continues to tank over the potentially 3-month turnaround time, then all these can be thrown out of whack as well. So if you really want to look at it a different way too, like say you've got raw cards, say you've got 100 of a raw card and the raw card value, just selling it directly on TCG Player or something like that. Say it's a $10 card raw, and then you want to put in, I mean, maybe you don't want to do PSA 6, 7. You want to just look at 8, 9, 10. It's let's just do 30, 40, 30. And in PSA 8, it's going to be $8. You're going to wish you hadn't graded it. In PSA 9, it's going to be 120. And in PSA 10, it's going to be 200. This is completely made up. I don't know what card this would be, but maybe it would be some modern quick flipper that you try to undertake this with. You got to just look at the numbers. In this instance, if these numbers were real and if they held, your expected net value per card would be $40 making that quick play. So yeah, it's just a quick little tool that I probably will never use, but just an interesting way to demonstrate like how you could look to determine the expected value of grading, regrading, cracking, and regrading certain cards. So yeah, hope that was interesting. Normal shout outs, Patreon, PokeFlips podcast channel. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content and want to see more. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever like sat down and done the numbers behind taking a crack and regrade play, or if you've just kind of like went for it. If you just had a feeling, I think this is a good play. I see what the PSA 10s are worth. I'm gonna take a gamble at it. But yeah, at the end of the day too, like this is all the cold hard numbers behind it. If you want to grade a card, numbers aside, grade it if the price is worth it to you. So yeah, that's enough for today. I appreciate you all watching, and I will catch you all later.